Welcome to Political Perspectives. I'm Editor-in-Chief Hugo Gurdon. If you're joining us on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Join the community that we are growing on YouTube. I'm joined today by Jim Antle, who's the executive editor of the Washington Examiner magazine. And Jim, we're talking at a time which is just a few days away from Donald Trump's inauguration, and the confirmation hearings for his cabinet picks are now in full swing up on Capitol Hill. The first one was Pete Hegseth on Monday, who's been nominated to run the Pentagon. Let's just have a quick look at a clip of him in an exchange with Elizabeth Warren.
Will you put your money where your mouth is and agree that when you leave this job, you will not work for the defense industry for 10 years?
Senator, it's not even a question I've thought about because it's not
think about
one
it right
that,
now.
It's not one. My motivation for this job
I understand
has never
that. I
been
just
about
need
what
a
could
yes or no
conceivably
here.
come next.
Time is short. I just need a yes or no.
I would consult with the president about what the policy should be
In
at the Defense
other
Department.
words, you're quite sure that every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years. You're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
It was an interesting quip by Pete Hegseth because he made the audience laugh at Elizabeth Warren and her question. And that goes to something I want you to talk a little bit about, and that is the success, I think, of Donald Trump's picking people who are good at communications. They're good communicators, they're good on TV. That really showed with Pete Hegseth. It seems to be showing also with Pam Bondi.
Right.
Talk a little bit about Trump's thinking there and why communications is the big deal.
Well, obviously Trump himself has a television background, and communications has been a big part not only of his political career, but even his success in real estate, and also obviously as a television star. But I think that Trump doesn't feel that his message gets out very effectively through the legacy media. He still thinks those institutions are important, however, especially television, but other media as well, including print. And he wants to have a team in place that can just go forth and all sort of spread the message. And so he is looking for people who are good on television, who have superior communication skills in general, and are pretty passionate about the aspects of their portfolios that are why Trump put them in place. And I think when you have televised confirmation hearings, this is the time where all these TV nominees should shine.
Right. So I wrote this week that in a way the confirmation hearings are repeating the pattern of the election, in that it was a kind of base election, getting out the vote, appealing to the base. There were not many compromises on Trump's part in order to win over wavering Democrats.
Right.
In a way, it's the same thing up on the Senate, where the base are the 53 senators in the Republican caucus. Pete Hegseth has met with Jack Reed, head of the Armed Services Committee, but he hasn't met with any others, although apparently he reached out and was ignored early on when his nomination looked to be in trouble. What I wanted to ask is that, does that suggest in a way that the confirmation hearings are in a way sort of irrelevant, that in fact the nominee's going to get through because they've got the votes? John Thune, the new majority leader, has got the votes lined up and this is all primarily theater, or are there some who are really in question?
Well, I think that the people who might be somewhat in question are the nominees who come from the coalition that is sort of unique to Trump, that isn't necessarily that electorally important to Republican senators. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, although RFK Jr. does look like he's in fairly good shape, but those are two that I would look at and wonder about if certain Republican senators want to balk, quite simply because maybe Donald Trump needed the types of voters that might have otherwise voted for RFK Jr. to get elected president, but really nobody needs those voters to get elected as a Republican senator from Tennessee or South Dakota or wherever. So those would be the people I would look at. Hegseth looked like he might be in trouble to start with, but a really big communication blitz, again, the importance of these TV skills, appears to have saved his nomination.
So let's turn our attention to the inauguration. As I say, we're just days away. And one of the things that's absolutely fascinating about this is that no one who's now alive has ever seen this before. It was way back in 1893 that Grover Cleveland was the last president who was returning after defeat.
Right.
Donald Trump has done something in being re-elected after being defeated that hasn't been done for a very long time. You've been writing about how this is sort of giving him, as it were, first-term energy, like a new president coming in, when he's actually coming in for a second term.
Right. I mean, the second term historically is pretty lethargic compared to the first. And a lot of times second-term presidents focus more on international affairs because by this time their political capital in Congress is spent down. That's not necessarily going to be the case for Donald Trump coming in. So he's had 4 years in between his terms to think and to prepare and to talk about some of the people who he might want to have on a second-term team. But he hasn't been putting in the grueling hours of a sitting president. So he's going to come in with that sort of energy, but he's also going to have a state of urgency because he's constitutionally ineligible to run for re-election.
Yeah, right. There's a kind of, I don't know whether one would call it a mirage exactly. There's an impression of coming in for a first term,
Right.
but actually he only has 4 years to get the things done that he wants to get done, and then we're going to be into an election in which the White House is vacant,
Right.
and it'll be the parties on perhaps greater parity.
And of course, there's also the midterm elections.
Right.
That also put, how long are the Republican majorities going to last? We don't know the answer to that yet.
Right. So when Donald Trump comes in, obviously President Biden is going out. And the thing that I just wanted to ask you to close out this conversation is, we've seen some pretty striking, some would say shocking things being done by the outgoing presidents, the pardons that he's given, the commutations for really some of the most appalling murderers there are. What's your prediction as regards any more surprise pardons or, for example, of James Biden? What do you think is going to happen between now and noon on Monday when Biden ceases to be president?
I think there's a reasonably decent chance of a last-minute James Biden pardon, and I think it's a virtual certainty there will be some other sort of symbolic pardon that shows, Donald Trump is going to persecute people. We're preemptively protecting this resistance or this never Trump hero from such persecution. So I don't know if it would be somebody like Liz Cheney. The sorts of people who would get the Presidential Medal of Freedom under Biden are maybe going to get a pardon before he leaves as well.
Well, there's all sorts of, someone put forward the idea just the other day that perhaps there should be a constitutional amendment so that between Election Day and Inauguration Day, presidents should lose the power both of pardons and of executive actions. Biden is making a very strong case for that. But that, Jim, is where we'll leave it. We're going to leave it until next week. Please join us again on Political Perspectives. And as I say, do like and subscribe to YouTube. We want you to join us as part of our wide circle of readers and viewers.